We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Amud Aleph from Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 50a. Rav had just said that if a person says he wants his makam shvisa under a tree, but he doesn't specify the exact area under the tree, he gets no makam shvisa at all. So the Gemara now says, Amar Rabba says, my time of the Rav. What is the reason of Rav? Rashi here explains, my time of the Rav. Bishalom Shmuel. I understand Shmuel's opinion, Lalish Nakama, according to the first version. Rashi had two versions in understanding Shmuel. According to the first version, which is the version Rashi prefers, that makes sense. Mistavra Milse makes perfect sense. The Mikol Makam Kana Shvisa Tachas Ha'ilan. According to Shmuel, the person gets Shvisa under the tree. Avol Einanu Yodin, Ezu Dalet Amos Kana. We just don't know exactly which 4 Amos under the tree is his Makam Shvisa. So we have to be Machmir. Hilkach Yado Ala Tachtona, therefore he gets the lower hand. Umafsid Me'arbas Al Payim Kashir Tachtov Shalilon, Bolim Dod Mikan, Modidin Lo Mikan. In other words, if the guy wants to, let's say, travel north, then we assume his Makam Shvisa was at the southernmost part of the tree, and vice versa. If he wants to travel south, we assume it's at the northernmost. So that makes perfect sense. Why should he have no Makam Shvisa at all? So the first answer, the first version in Rabba is as follows. Mishum de lo Messiah Masre. Since he didn't specify exactly where the Makam Shvisa is, and Rashi explains, V'keven de lo Sayim lo kani le midi. Since he wasn't clear exactly where the Makam Shvisa is under the tree, it's a large area under the tree, therefore he gets no Makam Shvisa. Vika Deami, there's another version of Rav as follows. Amar Rabba answers, my time of the Rav, what's the reason of Rav? Mishum de Kasavar, because Rav holds, Kol she'eno bazeh arzeh. If you can't do something in a sequential manner, afilu bevasach hasenu, you can't do it in one shot. In other words, a person would not be able to say, I want my Makam Shvisa to be in the southern part of the tree, underneath the southern part of the tree, and then change his mind later and say the northern part. Since you can't change your mind later, you also can't do that bevasachas. You can't say under the tree without specifying north or south. The whole thing is no good. Gemara says, "My beinayu." What's the difference between these two answers? Ika beinayu. The difference is, Diomar liknu li ba'arba amos migo shmona. Let's say he says, "I want my makam shvisa to be 4 amos among the 8 amos that are under the tree." Man da'amar mishum de lo masayim asrei. The one who says he hasn't been clear, he hasn't been specific about where his makam shvisa is. Halo masayim asrei. In this case, also, he's not being specific. He's simply saying 4 out of the 8. He doesn't identify the 4. Uman da'amar mishum kol she'eno bazeh arzeh afilu bevasach. But the one who says that the reason it's a problem is because if you can't do it sequentially, then you can't do it in one shot. Haika arba amos dummy. This guy never said he wants his makam shvisa to be the entire area without being clear. He said, I only want 4 amos out of the 8, and that's not going to be a problem at all. That's actually going to be effective. Tahacha arba amos kamar, because here he does in fact say, I only want arba amos. Gemara now says, Gufa, let's analyze this principle. Amar Rabba says, Kol davar she'eno bazeh arzeh. Anytime you can't do something sequentially, afilu bevasachas eno, you're also not allowed to do it in one shot. So Eisvei Abaye l'Rabba. Abaye asked Rabba the following question on that principle. Hamarbe b'maisers. Let's say somebody takes off too much, more than necessary in terms of the separation of meiser. Meiser is 1/10. You're going to give 1/10 to the Levi. That's what you're supposed to do. But this person, let's just say, he separated 50%. He separated 1/2 of the fruit, and he said all of this is meiser. So Peirosav Mesukanim, he has fixed his fruit, meaning the fruit that he is now, not the fruit that he's designating as Meiser, but the other fruit, that's Chulin. It's no longer Tevel. He certainly separated 1/10. He actually separated even more than 1/10. However, Umaiserosav Mikulkolin, his Meiser is all messed up. The reason his Meiser is messed up is because you really can't give more than 1/10 for Meiser. So what ends up happening here is he's got some of this fruit is Meiser, or some of this grain is Meiser, and some of it is still Tevel, because the Chalos Shei Meiser is only Chal on the 1/10. It's not going to be Chal on the rest. So the Gemara says, well, 1 second, Amai, why should any of this Meiser be Chal? Why should even the part that he's fixing be fixed? Leima kol she'eno bazeh arzeh afilu bevasachas eno. We should say that since you couldn't do this sequentially, if he would separate 1/10 and say this is Meiser, and then he would after that try to separate more and say that's also Meiser, that wouldn't work. You can't do that sequentially. You've already separated Meiser. It's impossible to add more. So if that doesn't work, if it doesn't work sequentially, and the rule is if it doesn't work sequentially, it doesn't work in one shot. So then when he separates 50% and says he wants it to be Meiser, we should say no Meiser is Chal whatsoever, and nothing is fixed. So the Gemara answers, Shani Meiser di'isei lechatzoin. Meiser is a little different because it can go halfway, meaning diyamar tikdosh palga dechitza. Let's say a person would say, I only want half of each wheat kernel to be Meiser, kitcha, that would actually work. So in this case, when the person separates 50% of the grain and says, I want the Meiser to be on this 50% of the grain, every kernel of grain will have a little portion of Meiser in it. That's possible when it comes to Meiser, and therefore you don't have this problem that since it's not Bozeh Charzeh, it can't be Chal Bevas Achas. In this case, it can be Chal in one shot, because every piece of grain can get a little portion of Meiser. So the Gemara says, well, v'harei meiser behema. What about meiser behema? The lesson l'chatzoin. You can't take an animal and say part of this animal is meiser behema and part of it is not. The way they used to do it is they used to let the animals come out of the pen, and the one that came out number 10, that's your meiser behema. But the entire animal is meiser behema. You can't do it like by grain. You can't say part of it is meiser and part of it is not. V'yamar Rav, and Rava says, yatzu shnayim ba'asiri. Rava says that let's say two animals come out together as number 10, the karan asiri, and you say this is number 10. So the halach is asiri v'achad asar mu'uravin zebozeh. You have a situation where number 10 and number 11 are all actually mixed up. You don't know which one is Meiser Behema, and you don't know which one is not Meiser Behema. What you end up doing is the other one becomes like a carbon shlomim. So why does that work? Again, if it would have come out in order, you couldn't make the 11th one Meiser Behema. So the Gemara answers, Shani Meiser Behema. No, Meiser Behema is also different. The Isei Bozeh Charzeh. It actually does work somewhat. Bozeh Charzeh betos, if you make a mistake. The Tanan, as we learned in a Mishnah, Kara L'Tashi Asiri. Let's say he calls the 9th one number 10 by mistake. V'la Asiri Tashi. Then he calls the 10th one number 9. V'la Achad Asar Asiri. Then he calls the 11th one also number 10. Shloshtan Mikudashin. They're all Kadosh. Now, they're not all necessarily Meiser Behema, but at the very least, it's a suffix, and we say that at the very least, they're all Kadosh as a carbon shlomim, as we mentioned earlier. So there is Kedusha that can be Chal B'Tos when it comes by Meiser Behema. So since Kedusha can be Chal B'Tos, it can also be Chal B'Vas Achas in a situation where two animals come out at once. So the Gemara asks V'harei Toda, but what about by carbon Toda? There are 40 Lachme Toda, there are 40 Chalos that you bring together with the carbon Toda, and you have to designate, these are the 40 Chalos that I'm bringing for the carbon Toda, the Lesa B'Tos. So in that situation, you can't say, it's not going to be Chal if you make a mistake. Let's say you separate 40, and then you forgot you did that, and then you try to separate another 40, it doesn't work. V'lesa B'Zeh Charzeh, it also doesn't work B'Zeh Charzeh. If I separate 40, then I try to do another 40, it's not going to work. V'itmar, and it was taught, Toda shenishcheta al shmonim chalos. Let's say you have a carbon Toda that was shechted on 80 chalos, bevas achas, in one shot. Chizkiya amar kidshu Allah mem mitoch shmonim. Chizkiya says 40 out of the 80 can be kadosh. Rabbi Yochanan amar lo kidshu Allah mem mitoch shmonim. Rabbi Yochanan says that's not the case. So here you have a situation where it doesn't work b'zeh charzeh, and it seems to be working bevas achas. So the Gemara answers, ha'itmar Allah, no, it was said on that. Amar Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera says, now in the note over here they change it to Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. So Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, Hakol modim, everybody admits, in this case, when they say 40 out of 80 is kadosh, everybody admits, if a person says that I want 40 out of the 80 to be holy, to kachi, that's for sure kadosh, and that doesn't pose a problem at all. That's similar to the case by the makom shvisa, where you say I want 4 out of the 8 amos to be my makom shvisa. That's never a problem of kol she'eno b'zeh charzeh b'vas achas eino. That's not a problem. So everyone agrees that's good. Lo yikdashu arboim elim kain kitchu shmonim, and everybody also agrees that if the guy says I only want 40 to be holy if 80 are holy, meaning he basically saying I only want 80, all 80 to become the lachme toda, kuli amalo pligi de lo kitchu. That's for sure not going to work. There's no doubt a person can't say I am making 80 of these chalos to be the lachme toda. Ki pligi b'stama, the whole machlokas over here between Chizkiya and Rabbi Yochanan is when a person didn't declare his intention clearly. Mar savar la'achrayas kamachavin. One position holds that what he really wants is just achrayas. Just in case something happens to the first 40, he's saying, I want these other 40 as an insurance. V'al tanai aisinu, he's just making a condition. If it doesn't work with these, then it's going to work with those. Rashi here explains, le'achrayas kamachavin. Shem yovdu o yitbu, that if the first ones get lost, or they become tameh chetzion yiftar b'chetzion, then the other half will take care of that half. We'll use the other half as the 40 chalos. V'havalei ka'omer yikdashu arboy mitoch shmonim. That's the same as saying 40 out of 80, and it's not a problem at all. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Amud Beis.